Hello and welcome to Financial Express. I have Abhilasha with me, and today we are going to talk about the top 5 myths around cars. And the first being that your car performs better if you always fill your fuel tank full. So Abhilasha, do you really think that it's a fact or it's a
Well,
myth?
when we say performs better, I think we're talking about fuel efficiency
Yeah,
here.
fuel efficiency.
So the point here is, it's like saying that I can run faster on a stomach full of food. Well, you'll feel a little weird running, right? It's kind of the same concept here. So the point is that the engine will use exactly the same amount of fuel that it has to if it has 2 liters of fuel or 15. Doesn't really matter. In fact, if you have a full tank of fuel, that's adding to the weight. Say if you have a 60-liter fuel tank and you fill it till 30, you're actually saving 25 kilograms of weight right there. So lesser fuel can translate to better fuel efficiency. But having said that, it's not like it's going to be a massive difference. So you inculcate this habit of just keeping it half brim. You don't really need to do that. So debunking the myths, it doesn't really make a difference if you keep the tank full brimmed or half.
And is it safe?
Safe, yeah, there is actually no troubles whatsoever that you need to worry about. Safety is not a concern whether you keep it full or half.
Mostly people do that, they do overinflate their tires and they think that it would give them a smoother drive. So
Yeah.
is it a myth or is it a fact?
No, there is actually no truth to this to any degree. In fact, we advise against overinflating your tires. I hope you don't do that.
I don't do that. Trust me, I don't.
That's a good one right there. So there are several reasons why we advise against it, and the first one is that the wear and tear on your tire is actually quickened, so much so that it can actually halven the life of your tire because the tread section is rounded out. So the central part of the tire, which is in contact with the road the most, wears out much faster than when you keep the air pressures to the recommended levels. Secondly, every single bump on the road, you will feel it more prominently. One bump on the road and you will see it affecting the ride as well.
And does the car wobble if your tires are overinflated?
Yes, getting to that, it's actually dangerous because traction, you can lose traction, or in other words, the grip your tire has with the road is lesser when you have overinflated tires. So the correct thing to do here is the recommended PSI levels that are given by the manufacturers. You can find it in the car manual or on the sidewalls of the tires. Stick to these for winters, summers, whatever the numbers are prescribed for longevity of the tires and your safety as well.
We heard a lot of cases on the Yamuna Expressway where the tires were exploding. So
Yes.
is there any connection between overinflating tires
Exactly,
on the
that's a
expressway
good
on
one.
concrete surface?
That's a very good example why it is actually very dangerous. So the thing is, the Yamuna Expressway, why we're citing an example of this highway in particular, the road surface is made of concrete.
Yeah.
There's a reason why roads are made of tarmac the world over. It's the safer bet. What concrete does is, when the tire roll happens on concrete, the temperature of the rubber can increase much faster than it does on tarmac. So if the air in your tires is already more than what's prescribed, so what happens to air when it heats up? It expands.
Yeah.
So it's already more than prescribed, and when it'll heat up, it's going to expand, causing into an explosion, and you don't want that to happen.
Basically, it's actually not safe.
It's not safe, not recommended. Do not do it. Stick to the prescribed numbers.
Another one, that fuel injectors have to be cleaned at regular interval of time. I don't think so that it has to be done.
Nope. No, sir. Oh, ma'am. They don't really have to be cleaned. So fuel injectors can get clogged over time, and this happens after thousands of kilometers. They might need cleaning, but no, regular interval cleaning is not required for fuel injections at all.
And plus, I think it's an expensive process.
It is an expensive process, especially for diesel cars, because diesel fuel injections, you can't really clean them when they're mounted on the engine. You have to dismantle the entire thing, which is an expensive proposition. Now, having said that, they do need cleaning, but for that, if you are experiencing signs like if the engine is rough idling, if you see the revs dipping or they're going higher for no reason when you're idling, or the acceleration is underperforming, or the fuel efficiency has gone wonky, or if you've gone to get your PUC certificate and the guy over there tells you that emission levels are higher
Right.
These are some red flags that tell you that fuel injection needs cleaning, but otherwise, regular intervals, they don't need to be cleaned. A little tip here is that always have a pet filling station where you always go to get your fuel tank brimmed in your city, and choose a good brand, which we have plenty.
And Abhilasha, in case if I'm driving to an offbeat destination, you can say that Leh or Kathmandu in that case?
In that case, well, it won't really make a difference if you're getting fuel from. So, in my experience, I did do a ride from Delhi to Kathmandu, and I was quite concerned because I've filled up the fuel tank on my motorcycle at places which were like had no branding. This was petrol from little liter bottles. Coke cans had petrol in them. So in that case, what you can do is add little fuel injector cleaners, which are easily available online. And performance engine oil manufacturers have these injector cleaners. They're not very expensive too. So every single time you do a top up on your fuel tank, add a little bit of this supplement and you should be good to go.
So Abhilasha, I think this is the most common myth that people do have in their mind, which is if you put your gear in the neutral, if you example are hitting towards a traffic signal, thinking that it's going to save more fuel. So is it true or not?
So technically speaking, when you put your car in neutral, it is idling at the lowest RPMs that it can, say 1,000 or something. So the fuel consumption will be much lesser compared to when you're accelerating. That remains true. But then I'll give you 3 reasons why you should never be doing this. First of all, you need total control on your drive. So sometimes braking is not what gets you out of a sticky situation. Sometimes accelerating out of a situation does it. So you want that control, you put it in neutral in emergency situations, that can be dangerous. So let's not do that. Secondly, when you do decide to slip it in gear, so for example, downhill people do this a lot.
Right? I think it's highly unsafe, right?
Yes. So downhill you're doing this, first of all, you don't have control. That's one. So you shouldn't do that for the one reason to begin with. Secondly, when you do decide to slip it in gear, say you're doing a speed of 40 to 50, now your gearbox has not progressed from first gear to second gear to third. It hasn't been through that progression. So all of a sudden if you give it second or third gear, so that can be quite stressful for the engine. It's not going to blow up your engine, sure, but it's additional stress that we want to avoid. Now the third reason, well, this is not a reason, this is actually just a tip. Well, if you are fuel efficiency conscious, the best thing to do is switch off the engine. If it's a 30-second or longer traffic signal, just switch it off. That's consuming lesser fuel than you're neutraling.
But basically, it's highly unsafe to do it, especially if you're driving downhill.
So the benefits of this are way smaller than
the risk is,
the risk is way too high. So let's just stick to keeping it in gear.
Let's just avoid it.
Yeah.
I think even this one is a very common myth that people have, is that you have to change your engine oil after every 5,000 kilometers.
Yeah, so this used to be the case with older cars, especially which had carburetors for fuel systems. But so these mostly in the olden days, we were using mineral-based oils which had lesser life, which was around 5,000 kilometers. But now mostly cars we have now are using synthetic oils, which have far better viscosity, so these can be used for 10,000 kilometers or for a year, whichever comes first.
So what are uses of synthetic oil?
Like I said, the viscosity is better, so the performance is unaffected, be it a cold temperature or extreme weathers. So that's one. Secondly, it's more refined, it's better engineered for reduced deposits. Now, having said that, synthetic engine oils are better for your car. So if you do change it in 5,000 kilometers, that's not exactly harmful for your car, but then it's not beneficial either.
So it's better to change every 10,000
Every 10,000 kilometers. This is not something to worry about at all. 10,000 kilometers, you have nothing to worry about. Plus, if you're generating used fuel every 5,000 kilometers, that's also stressful for the environment. Let's just add that point as well, because you need to think about how is that oil going to be recycled or used once it's been used in your car. So let's be a little green, not generate used oil for no reason, and change our oil every 10,000 kilometers.
So we assume that we have given enough information, and you will avoid these common mistakes that people usually make while they're driving their cars.